You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, I'm your host, Jeffrey D. Calhoun, and I'd love it if you join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. You'll get access to seminars, workshops, Oscar-nominated screenplays, and even open writing assignments from producers. Get all the tools, resources, and support you need to launch your screenwriting career for free. Now, on to our show. Oh, I'm so excited for today's show. So we're doing another episode of our character database. With our character database, we find individuals from exceptional fields, from unique professions, and we have a gentleman today. Ron Holloway is a diplomatic security special agent. Thanks for coming on, Ron.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Glad for having me on.
And before we really kind of dive into this, and I have you start talking about what a DS agent is, which it's so cool, just having this opportunity. But I also wanted to talk about that you have a book called Antifragility, Turning Crisis into Opportunity, correct?
Yeah, it's Antifragility, 10 Principles for Life, for turning crisis into opportunity.
And is that available on your website, arrowcoachingllc.com?
Right now, it's an ebook. And it is available on my website. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Well, can you tell me and the audience about what a DS agent is?
Okay. Well, let's start out overarching with special agents across the board.
Okay.
So we hear that term special agent. A little anecdotal history is when it came out, a government agent was someone who was unarmed, and someone who was armed was then designated a special agent.
Oh, okay.
So when you hear that, that's kind of the backstory. So FBI agents generally have a jurisdiction of investigations, right? We see that show NCIS. Their jurisdiction is typically things related only to the Navy.
Okay.
Protection of the Navy. There are special agents in USDA who investigate crimes related to agricultural violations and law breaking.
Wow.
So government agencies have them. Particular agency I was in was U.S. Department of State. So, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if we were anywhere else in the world. And DS agents, we protect America's ability to conduct diplomacy.
So
everything to do with protecting diplomacy is us.
So it's almost like is this similar to like what a Secret Service would be for an ambassador type of situation?
Well, Secret Service don't protect ambassadors.
Right.
So if you were to compare us to other agencies, we're kind of a hodgepodge, which makes us very interesting.
Okay.
So we have elements that are like CIA.
Okay.
We have elements that are like Secret Service, which is your traditional close protection, what people know as bodyguard work. We do that.
Okay.
Investigations like the FBI, particularly threat investigations, and we also do visa and passport fraud.
Wow.
Any crime related to that, a drug dealer uses a passport, we can investigate them. Terrorism, and we're also deputized U.S. Marshals.
What?
And we can do hostage returns, and not hostage returns, felon returns, bail jumpers, all that. A lot of what we do is bringing back sexual predators.
Okay.
Because they get convicted here in the States and they skip out to Thailand or Costa Rica a lot of times. So we bring them back. And
so you like manhunting them?
Sometimes.
Wow.
And a lot of times we're working with other people. And what's unique of it, and we also have an element kind of like the U.S. Army Special Forces, in that we have a capacity building. And by Special Forces, I mean Green Berets. Capacity building in host countries. So Special Forces will train local militaries and traditionally guerrilla groups. We train local law enforcement.
Oh.
So we have a program called Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And of course, as we protect diplomacy, we're the ones in charge of all the embassies. We're in Benghazi, places you've never heard of because nobody died. We protect anyone below head of state or a non-head of state. So British royals, Nelson Mandela when he was alive, whenever they come to the States. I specialized in major events. So I've been embedded with the U.S. men's national soccer team. I helped run operations at the 2010 World Cup, protecting 10,000 American tourists, plus
Wow.
the U.S. men's team, numerous Olympics, other World Cups. And then you also find us in every FBI joint terrorism task force.
Okay. You really cross-pollinate everywhere.
We're very unique, and we're kind of jacks of all trades. I wouldn't say we're not masters of none, but you really have to focus if you want to get a specialty.
And it sounds like you can kind of find a specialty within that branch that really calls to you.
If you're proactive,
Okay.
I did it. Not everybody does it. I got turned on to major events very early in my career when I went to Athens in 2004.
Okay.
And that was the first Olympics post 9/11, right? It
Oh,
was a huge deal. And they spotted me. They said, "You're very good at leadership." They put me in charge of operations at the Paralympics. First at the Olympics, I was doing surveillance detection. Paralympics, I was the operations coordinator. And then I progressed to 2006 Winter Olympics, 2006 World Cup in Germany, Vancouver, South Africa, probably some other ones.
wow.
I don't even remember. And I've lived with the men's soccer team.
So,
All kinds
so
of stuff.
what was your origin story that led you to become a DS agent?
Okay, well, I might have an inner psychopath. I'm a child of the Cold War. As a
Okay.
kid, I saw like my first James Bond movie, I think when I was 7.
Okay.
Drove a Lotus into the ocean, it turned into a submarine.
Oh, yeah.
And, he was a cool, suave guy who could beat up thugs. And I said, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be James Bond. Some kids want
Okay.
to be firefighters. I wanted to kill KGB and Stasi agents for a living. So that inner psychopath. I'm kind of like Dexter in that way.
Okay.
But I progressed there. I just started learning it. Some kids like toy guns, like toy trains. I like toy guns, GI Joes, spy movies, and thrillers. I told you I'm neurodivergent. Some of the things I'm
Right.
good at are language. So I speak I started learning languages.
Wow.
When I went into high school, the only things I did well in were German because I could pass for German and the wall was still up.
Wow.
Drama, so I could work undercover, and working out. At 17, I joined the Army on the delayed entry program. 18, I left. I became a human intelligence collector, so what you would consider a junior spy. At the time, we were interrogators, but I ended up cross-training in counterintelligence.
Okay.
Did that, ended up working at the U.S. Embassy in Budapest, learned Hungarian, learned about DS, and I said, okay, that's the way I want to go. I get to do all the cool training Special Forces does, and like in the movies, except I don't have to live in the woods where there are no girls.
Okay. So in the
And
Army,
the rest is history.
yeah. So in the Army, you went from there. Did you get recruited into the DS, or was this like you found it, you applied, passed everything, got in?
Yeah, I found it when I was a private going to language school in DC, Defense Language Institute East, learned Hungarian. There was another DS agent there learning Hungarian. And from then on, I ended up working in an embassy. DS agents run the whole security operations for embassies. I worked at the Defense Attaché's office in Budapest. And then I stayed the course. From the time I learned about DS to the time I could get in, I had to have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
It was about 10 years. And I didn't know who I'd be competing against, and I leave no stone unturned. So I came out of the Army already speaking German and Hungarian and some Spanish.
Yeah.
So I wanted to prove that I could learn hard languages. So in college, I did Japanese. I did my last year of college in Tokyo at an Ivy League Japanese university.
Wow.
While I was there, my senior year, I applied to DS on a paper application that I faxed in. 9/11 happened and we expanded from 400 agents to 2,000 agents.
Wow.
And next thing I know, I'm in training in Virginia and Georgia and West Virginia, doing all kinds of cool stuff.
That's amazing. So you've been in this for a while, and you said yourself you're
Not
never
anymore. I'm not anymore. I'm an executive coach now.
okay.
Uh,
How long were you in the DSA agent for before you were
So
retired?
I didn't retire. I was a special agent for 12 years.
Okay.
At the 9-year mark, I became very ill. This is kind of my own hero's journey. I broke down,
Okay.
went under observation, hospitalized. I think I told you I went partially blind,
Wow.
cognitively, emotionally impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had to rebuild myself, and I couldn't stay an agent. So then they wanted to keep me, so they put me in a place called Rewards for Justice, which is essential the U.S. government's like a suicide or crime stopper hotline,
Okay.
except it's geared towards terrorism.
Wow.
And I ended up being the guy on the other end of our email when people send things in from all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm going through hundreds of emails a day in this cubicle, which sucked. And I was the one guy for the whole US government on that thing, handling those
That had
messages.
to be crazy.
It was so stressful. And one of my impairments was anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with, if I miss something coming in, if I don't investigate, if I
Yeah.
blow it off, and then it comes back, that yes, bin Laden was in Abbottabad, and someone told me, and they want the reward, well, then I look like the jerk of the world because I dropped the ball.
Right.
So it was very stressful.
Were you
But
sleeping?
yeah, I was sleeping.
You were sleeping.
And I had to take medication now because the way I broke
Okay.
affected my brain chemistry. However, simultaneously, I started taking all the things I learned
Okay.
to rebuild myself and started teaching it to others. And the next thing I know, I've got a blog inside the government.
Okay.
I've got a group. I become a social media influencer.
Look at you.
I'm subject matter expert for the organization and leadership. And when our equivalent of a 2-star general took over the training directorate, she said, Ron, I don't want you to do that anymore. She plucked me out, put me senior advisor for human capital development. And we've been doing this leadership stuff for 6 years. And she said, I want you to teach all these agents and our 48,000 support people to do what you do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you took. Well, one thing I want to touch on is because, and I'm not saying this is what happened to you, but I know that significant stress or even trauma can cause temporary blindness.
Mhm.
And that to me says, whether this is something you went through or not, it sounds like this is like the most stressful job in the world.
This is the most stressful job in federal law enforcement.
Wow.
You asked about Secret Service agents earlier. Secret Service agents primarily do protection with a lot of resources for a lot fewer people, and primarily in the United States.
Yeah.
We protect everyone, particularly abroad.
Mm-hmm.
We were in, not me personally, in Benghazi.
Yeah.
People don't hear about that. We're in places like that. We're living in Juba, Sudan.
Did we lose DS? And please forgive my ignorance. Did we lose DS agents in Benghazi?
Fortunately, we don't. I think we have a guardian angel looks over us because a lot of us should be dead.
Okay.
But we've had 4 homicides, 2 in the Pan Am bombing, Lockerbie bombing.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty crazy. 1 in Iraq, 2 in Iraq, because we're also protecting all those diplomats in Iraq doing protective details with BBIDs.
Right. And you're not even in, and you don't have home court advantage. You're off in someone else's land. That's so you must feel so exposed doing what you do.
Yeah. It's dangerous and it's stressful. And we do have mental health issues come up. I'm not the only one.
Oh, sure. How could you not?
I think about 4 people come under observation every month.
Yeah.
We have very high divorce rates because one of the things we do is we travel every 2 years. Or not necessarily. If you stay in DC, you can do back-to-back assignments in DC. But a lot of times we're picking up our families and moving every 2 years. And since we're in embassies,
yeah, that's got to be hard.
We're not all in Paris and London.
What is this? What is this sense of reward?
I was in Senegal. Since your reward,
Yeah.
from the coolest training you can ever get,
Okay.
seeing things that average Joe never sees, camaraderie. There's a certain camaraderie when you're in a profession of arms.
Okay. You've kind of built a brotherhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I because it sounds like a job like this, a career like this weighs so heavily on you, but there has to be something in there that you get that reward that you love. That's like, I'm doing this because this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And it's an adventure.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And you'll never get rich in the government, but you'll pretty much always get a paycheck. So
All right. So we're both are neurodivergent. You were able to take that, spin it into strength. And I really admire the fact that even after going through all of that stress and being given a different purpose, fielding all of those emails and phone calls, you're able to take that and make the best out of it to the point to where you shine to where a two-star general plucked you away and put you in an even more leadership position. It's absolutely admirable. I want to ask you, have you worked, and I don't need names or anything. Have you worked with someone or been aware of someone who was really not fit for the job?
all kinds,
Okay.
all kinds. So the work we do is just as stressful as a lot of those special operations units.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're embedded with them. However, we don't have the vetting process they do.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get all kinds. But I would put our best up against Delta Force
Okay.
and SEAL Team 6. And that's also another thing that makes it so stressful is you don't know who you're ending up on a protective detail with.
That makes sense because it's kind of,
It's a mixed bag.
yeah. All right.
And then
So
you also have the fact that people just get burned out and beat up and performance declines.
is there an average career length as a DS
20
agent?
years.
It's 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
20 years. We were able to retire at 20 years at age 50,
Okay.
which is different for most government employees because of the rigors of the job. And typically in law enforcement, life expectancies drop by about 7 years.
Then that's across the board. I talked to a New York detective and he said, yeah, 7 years life expectancy decreases. This from the stress of the job. And then also possibly when you retire, you're so used to being in that mode. When life changes and settles down, it's got to be hard to adapt to that.
Yeah. So I'm no longer with the government. That position I was in, the last one was a contract position.
Okay.
And when COVID hit and the government budgets came,
Oh,
we lost 21 million in the training department is what I was told.
oh, geez.
Anything that wasn't beans and bullets pretty much got cut. And I was working on something long-term that was, leadership and mental health and all that. They couldn't put a priority on at the time. And I walked out of a meeting one day, got a phone call and said my contract was defunded. And at, what was I, 48, 47?
Man, that's cold.
It was hard. And there was some backstory to it too, because I was talking about Benghazi in ways that scared people.
Oh,
I was looking at it from the standard of human factor management and why Chris Stevens made the decisions he did.
okay.
And that's a whole nother story. Hell, that's a movie in itself.
Right.
But I came out and I got that phone call. And that was my moment of anti-fragility, another one. Whereas what happens when I get hit? How do I immediately grow stronger rather than getting knocked out?
You said you were 48?
I'm 49 now. I think I was 47,
Did
maybe
you not,
48 at the
were
time.
you not able to retire then? You didn't get pension?
No, once I
Oh my
stopped being an
gosh.
agent and transferred into that Rewards for Justice job,
Okay.
I was no longer eligible for that 20 at 50. So I would have had to stay until I was 62. So I
Oh,
took the other job as a contractor, but it's, again, I turn everything to my advantage.
okay.
First of all, I get that call and what comes into my mind is Marcus Aurelius,
Okay.
because I nourish myself. I build neuro pathways for stuff like that. Part of what I do with my job. Obstacle in the way is the way. Impediment to action advances action. Okay, because that came into my mind, instead of, oh crap, how am I going to pay for the mortgage? How am I going to pay for the kids? How
Okay.
dare they do this to me? My whole system was different, even my biological system.
That's cool. So
I knew
you
my
actually
fight or
can.
flight would get triggered. So I went for a run. And I slept like a baby, pivoted, moved to Texas, invested in my own business, and now I'm doing podcasts and speaking at Facebook for $300 an hour, all kinds of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's the hero's journey.
Yeah. And the fact that you're able to physically like take stress in a different way is amazing.
All right, to my advantage.
That's a superhero powered. Can I get an example of something that happened in your profession where things went wrong, if you're comfortable sharing
Yeah.
something like that? Okay.
Yeah, so I said, as one of the leaders in South Africa for the 2010 World Cup,
Okay.
I was still a fairly junior agent. I wasn't high ranking. However, I was one of the fixers, kind of like Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction, Winston Wolf, right?
That's fascinating.
So they said, Ron, we have all these seniors arguing. They want to kick the special agent who is there out. We want you to go in almost undercover as a junior agent and get everything fixed. And those operations usually take about 2 years of planning. I had to do it in 2 months.
Oh, geez.
I was sent directly on request by the director through our assistant director for protection. So I go in there and this junior guy, all this stuff on me. And I've got 10,000 Americans to protect. I've got the national team. I'm in a very dangerous place. I'm living in a part of South Africa that even the indigenous Africans were telling me I shouldn't be.
Wow.
Yeah, it was dangerous. I'm scurrying around like a rat trying to get food around this place, this hotel. It was just a lot of stress, but I pulled it off.
I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into our character database. To hear the full uncut interview, join our community at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. Listen, our character database is amazing and there is nothing else out there like it. This contains interviews with individuals in unique professions such as CIA officers, FBI agents, hackers, con artists, and more, all for you to use as research for your next big scripts. Go to thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com and sign up.